Just before dawn this morning, in a televised address that broke into regular programming, President Sir Ramaphosa stepped forward to the microphone with a grave face, trembling hand, and heavy voice. He wasted no time on party rhetoric and refused to mask the weight of what was to occur. With flashes of cameras and the world's eyes upon him, he announced, "I hereby announce my resignation from the office of the President of the Republic of South Africa with immediate effect." That single sentence echoed through the airwaves like a thunderclap. Within seconds, social media erupted, hashtags trended globally, and newsrooms fell silent in disbelief as journalists scrambled to process the historic development. Political analysts dropped their prepared talking points and scrambled to reframe everything they thought they knew about the months ahead, and in the corridors of Latuli House there was said to have been chaos and disarray as top ANC officials were utterly taken aback. Even those who had inwardly speculated about Ramaphosa's potential resignation had not anticipated him quitting so suddenly, so theatrically, and so publicly. While the announcement seemed sudden to millions of South Africans watching at home, those paying close attention knew the pressure had been building for months. Ramaphosa's presidency had become a ticking time bomb, from the unresolved failure scandal in which millions of undeclared foreign currency were found secreted at his private game farm, to factional wars spiraling deep within the ANC, to growing public anger at economic stagnation and the long-festering wounds of state capture, the president was besieged by a perfect storm. For most, however, it was the latest bombshell ultimatum from corporate leaders who in private threatened Ramaphosa that investor confidence had eroded to the breaking point by ongoing uncertainty and scandals. Simultaneously, growing demands from within his own party for accountability had reached a point of no return. Corruption, abuse of power, and cover-ups linked to failure fueled a renewed tide of public outrage, and the opposition parties had started making preparations for a motion of no confidence in full swing, expecting to unseat him through parliament in case he didn't go voluntarily. In the background, senior figures in the ANC allegedly informed Ramaphosa that backing for his leadership had collapsed. Senior officials counseled-led him that resignation was perhaps the only option to salvage what was left of the party's integrity prior to the 2026 elections. The decision was an easy one: resign with honor now or be forced out later in shame. Sources close to top ANC officials indicate that not even Deputy President Paul Moshetel was adequately informed about the plans of Ramaphosa prior to live broadcasting. Surprise was planned. He wished for the announcement to fall like a hammer blow with no time given for opponents or allies to spin it ahead of time. Party Secretary General Fico Malula is said to have been stunned. Veterans such as Gude Mantesh, who had initially defended Ramaphosa's leadership at all costs, found themselves running around trying to organize emergency strategy sessions as the political earthquake spread. The ANC itself is also broken, and some are demanding a clean slate, hasty leadership renewal, a remake of the social contract with the people, and an opportunity to repair public confidence, while others are afraid of what might happen to their own careers if Ramaphosa steps down, especially if criminal charges proceed without the insulation of presidential power. The vacuum exists and the political daggers are already drawn. Across the globe, leaders and foreign embassies made strategically phrased declarations accepting Ramaphosa's resignation. The tone was diplomatic: stability, calm, continuity of governance, but behind it was worry. South Africa is a regional giant, and instability here radiates far beyond its shores. Markets responded immediately. The rand plunged quickly in the initial hours, then steadied as analysts expected hesitation regarding what form of leadership would be provided by the ANCs in a battle for control. Investors are waiting to discover if this crisis will yield a steadying hand or hasten South Africa's political deterioration. The immediate question: who will occupy the void? The ANC has to make a choice on whether to have an interim president or proceed directly to an elective conference. There are a few names in the running. The Deputy Paul Moshetel is the default front-runner. Another former health minister, Zuli Mokis, who has his own scandals, still has huge support in KwaZulu-Natal, and old guard names such as Lindiwe Kulu are lurking as likely unity candidates. But no dominant favorite has arisen and each option is fraught with peril. If the ANC acts too slowly or cannot rally together, the opposition may capitalize on the opportunity. Already the Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters and Action SA are rallying their supporters, presenting Ramaphosa's resignation as evidence that the ANC has lost all claim to any moral mandate to rule. The opposition perceives an opportunity to finally dislodge the ANC's grip on power in the 2026 election. In his last statement, Ramaphosa attempted to sound a note of humility and optimism. "I have served with the hope to create a better South Africa," he said, his voice somber but resolute, "but I welcome that the challenges ahead demand new leadership, new vision, and new energy. I leave office with a heavy heart, yet also with hope that this great nation will rise above its current afflictions." It was a subdued, reflective end to a presidency that had started so full of hope. Upon his initial inauguration, Ramaphosa was greeted as the one who would sweep away corruption, revive economic development, and bring closure to the hurts inflicted by the Zuma era. For a moment, South Africans allowed themselves to believe in the hope of the so-called New Dawn. But that dawn soon turned to avert familiar shadows. History will tell if Ramaphosa is remembered favorably or unfavorably. For certain, his resignation is a turning point for South Africa's democratic experiment. What the nation does from here will determine not just the ANC's future but that of the very nation itself. Will this be the time when truth, justice, and accountability can take hold? Or will South Africans again stand by and allow fresh faces to come into power only to continue the same patterns of the previous generation? Time alone will tell. But be sure of this, the politics of South Africa will never again be the same. For the average citizen, the news has provoked a range of relief, anger, and fear. Relief that a presidency shrouded in scandal has finally been laid low, anger that it has taken so long and that accountability remains doubtful, and fear for what lies ahead and whether or not the ANC can carry the nation through yet another leadership crisis. This nation belongs to its people and not only to those who rule. Make your voices heard through the comments. Was Ramaphosa's resignation the correct decision? Who should take over to steer South Africa forward? And what do you want to see transpire now?